The sun was setting over Los Angeles as Sistine Stallone dragged her carry-on through the crowded airport. After a week-long modeling job in Paris, all she wanted was a hot shower and her own bed. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and dark circles had formed under her eyes from the long flight. The LAX airport buzzed with activity as travelers rushed to their gates. Flight 247 to Chicago is now boarding at Gate 32, announced a voice over the speakers, adding to the noise of rolling suitcases and chattering passengers. Sistine checked her phone. Her connecting flight home had been delayed again, first for 1 hour, then for 3. This meant she had another 2 hours to kill before boarding. She sighed and headed toward the VIP lounge where she could at least relax in comfort. The VIP lounge at LAX was an oasis of calm in the chaotic airport. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs, and free drinks made the wait bearable for those who could access it. Sistine had been a member for years, often using it during her frequent travels for modeling gigs. As she approached the entrance, a young man with slicked back hair and a crisp uniform stood behind the desk. His name tag read Tyler, and from his stiff posture, Sistine could tell he was new. "Membership card and ID, please," he said without looking up from his computer. Sistine placed her card and driver's license on the counter. "Here you go." Tyler glanced at her ID, then back at his screen, his eyebrows furrowing. "I'm sorry, but it seems your membership has expired." "That can't be right," Sistine replied, keeping her voice even. "I just renewed it last month." "Well, the system says it's expired," Tyler insisted, his voice taking on an edge. "Are you sure you didn't miss the payment?" A couple waiting behind Sistine shifted uncomfortably, recognizing who she was. "I'm sure," Sistine said. "Could you please check again? Maybe under my full name?" Sistine Rose Stallone. At the mention of her last name, Tyler's expression changed. He let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "Of Stallone? As in Sylvester Stallone's daughter?" "Right." Heat rose to Sistine's cheeks. "Yes, actually. I am. But that's not the point. My membership is valid, and I'd like to enter the lounge." Tyler crossed his arms. "Look, ma'am, I've heard all kinds of stories from people trying to get into this lounge. Being Stallone's daughter is a new one, though." By now, a small crowd had gathered. A woman nearby had taken out her phone and was recording the exchange. Sistine noticed and felt her embarrassment deepen. "I'm not lying," she said, her voice cracking slightly. "You can Google me if you don't believe me." "Google won't tell me if your membership is valid," Tyler replied smugly. "And right now, the system says it's not." An older woman behind the desk looked over with concern but didn't intervene. "Can I speak to a manager, please?" Sistine asked, fighting to keep her composure. "The manager is busy, and we have a line forming," Tyler said, gesturing to the people behind her. "I'm going to have to ask you to step aside." "I'm not trying to use my family name to get special treatment," Sistine explained, feeling both angry and humiliated. "I just want to use the service I paid for." "If you don't step aside, I'll have to call security," Tyler threatened, his hand hovering over the phone. Sistine stood her ground. "Go ahead. Call them. This is ridiculous." True to his word, Tyler picked up the phone. Within minutes, 2 security guards approached. The crowd around them had grown, and several phones were recording now. "What seems to be the problem?" asked one of the guards, a tall man with graying hair. "This woman is refusing to leave after being denied access to the lounge," Tyler explained, conveniently leaving out the reason for the dispute. Before Sistine could fully explain her side, she found herself being escorted away from the lounge, the eyes of dozens of strangers following her as she went. The security guards flanked Sistine as they walked through the busy terminal. One was tall with a weathered face and salt and pepper hair, the other was shorter with a military-style buzz cut. Neither looked her in the eye. "I don't understand why this is happening," Sistine said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I'm a paying member of that lounge." "Ma'am, we're just doing our job," the taller guard replied, his tone flat. "The lounge staff said your membership is expired." "But it's not expired," Sistine insisted. "I renewed it last month. This is clearly a mistake." They continued walking past gate after gate, the sounds of announcements and rolling suitcases filling the air. Sistine felt the weight of stares from travelers who recognized the tense scene. A young woman being escorted by airport security. A businessman waiting at gate 23 looked up from his laptop, his eyes widening with recognition. "Hey, isn't that Stallone's daughter?" he whispered to the woman beside him. The whispers spread like wildfire. "Stallone? Like Sylvester Stallone?" A teenage boy pulled out his phone and started recording, then nudged his friend. "Dude, that's Sistine Stallone. Something's going down." Sistine felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. This wasn't about her being a celebrity's daughter, this was about being treated unfairly. But now, with phones recording her every move, the situation had become so much worse. "Can we please stop walking through the entire airport like I've done something wrong?" Sistine asked, her voice cracking slightly. "This is humiliating." The shorter guard looked uncomfortable but shrugged. "We need to escort you to the main terminal." A middle-aged woman approached, her face concerned. "Excuse me, are you okay, honey? Do you need help?" Before Sistine could answer, the taller guard stepped between them. "Ma'am, please step back. This is airport business." "I'm fine," Sistine managed to say over the guard's shoulder. "Just a misunderstanding." But the woman's intervention had drawn even more attention. Now a small crowd was following them, phones out, recording what they probably thought was going to be the next viral airport meltdown. Except Sistine wasn't melting down. She kept her composure, though her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her carry-on handle. They finally stopped at a crowded waiting area near Gate 36, where people sat shoulder to shoulder on uncomfortable plastic seats. "You can wait for your flight here," the shorter guard said, gesturing to the packed seating area. Sistine looked around at the overcrowded gate. A child was crying in the corner. An elderly man was asleep with his mouth open. A couple was arguing in hushed tones about vacation plans gone wrong. "My flight isn't even at this gate," Sistine said. "It's at gate 12, 2 terminals over." The taller guard checked his watch. "Then you should head there about an hour before boarding." And with that, they left her standing alone with her suitcase, the curious eyes of strangers still watching her every move. A young woman scooted over on her seat, offering Sistine a spot. "Here, you can sit," she said kindly. "Thanks," Sistine said, sinking into the hard plastic chair. She tried to ignore the stares and whispers around her. Her phone buzzed with notifications. The videos were already being shared. She opened one and creamed seeing herself being escorted through the airport, the caption reading, "Stallone's daughter kicked out of airport lounge?" Another notification popped up. Her battery was at 12%. Perfect. Just perfect. She needed to call someone. Her dad was supposed to pick her up, but he'd be waiting at arrivals, not knowing about this mess. And if these videos spread, he might see them before she could explain. Sistine took a deep breath and dialed her father's number, praying he would answer before her phone died completely. "Come on, Dad," she whispered as the phone rang. "Pick up." Around her, the airport continued its chaotic symphony of announcements, conversations, and rolling luggage. But for Sistine, sitting alone in that crowded gate, it felt like the whole world had gone quiet, waiting to see what would happen next. The phone rang 3 times before her father's gruff voice answered. "Hey, sweetheart, just parked the car. You landed yet?" "Dad," Sistine said, relief washing over her. She lowered her voice, aware of people still watching her. "I'm at the airport, but there's been a problem." "What kind of problem?" Sylvester Stallone's voice immediately shifted from casual to concerned. 50 years in Hollywood hadn't dulled his protective instincts when it came to his daughters. "The staff at the VIP lounge wouldn't let me in. They said my membership expired, but it didn't. When I tried to explain, they called security." Sistine's voice cracked despite her efforts to stay calm. "They walked me through the whole airport like I was causing trouble. People were filming it." There was silence on the other end. Sistine could practically picture her father's expression, that focused look he got when something needed fixing. "Where are you now?" he finally asked, his voice controlled but tight. "Gate 36, Terminal B. But my flight leaves from Gate 12 in Terminal C in about 2 hours." Sistine glanced at her phone battery, 9% now. "Dad, my phone's about to die. I didn't have time to charge it in Paris and—" "Don't worry about it. Stay where you are." The background noise on his end changed. He was moving, walking quickly. "I'm coming to you first, then we'll sort this out." "Dad, you don't have to," Sistine started. "Yes, I do," he interrupted. Not because you're my daughter or because of who I am. Because what they did wasn't right, and someone needs to address it." A boarding announcement blared over the speakers, drowning out her father's next words. "What?" Sistine asked, pressing the phone harder against her ear. "I said those videos are already online. My phone's been buzzing with notifications. Some clickbait headline about you getting kicked out of the airport." She could hear him breathing harder now. He was walking fast. "Don't read the comments. Half the people are saying you must have been acting entitled." Sistine's stomach dropped. Of course they were. People love to assume the worst about celebrities' kids. "I wasn't," she said quietly. "I just wanted to wait for my flight somewhere comfortable after a 14-hour trip." "I know that, honey." His voice softened momentarily before hardening again. "The airport management is about to know it too." A woman sitting nearby nudged her friend and pointed at Sistine, whispering behind her hand. The friend pulled out her phone and pretended to take a selfie, but Sistine knew she was actually taking a photo of her. "Dad, people are still watching me," Sistine whispered. "This is so embarrassing." "Look at me," a tiny girl, maybe 5 years old, said loudly, pointing at Sistine. "Mommy, that lady is sad." The mother quickly pulled her daughter's hand down. "Don't point, honey. It's not polite." "But she looks sad," the little girl insisted. Sistine gave the child a small smile. Kids were the only honest ones in these situations. "Dad, how long until you get here?" she asked, turning away from the curious onlookers. 10 minutes, maybe less." She could hear him talking to someone else briefly, probably asking for directions. "Terminal B, right." "Yes, gate 36, Sistine confirmed. "My phone's at 5% now, so if it dies—" "I'll find you," he assured her. "Even in this zoo of an airport." A notification popped up on her screen. A news alert with her name in the headline. She didn't open it. "The press is picking this up already," Sistine said, her voice hollow. "Let them," her father replied, and she could hear the determination in his voice. "By the time this is over, they'll be reporting a very different story." In the background, Sistine heard someone say, "Excuse me, aren't you?" before her father cut them off with a polite but firm, "Not now, thanks." "Dad, I gotta go. Battery's almost." The phone died in her hand, cutting off the call. Sistine sighed and slipped it into her pocket. Now all she could do was wait and hope her father would find her in the crowded terminal before more people recognized her from the quickly spreading videos. She pulled her baseball cap lower over her eyes and settled in for what was sure to be the longest 10 minutes of her life. Sylvester Stallone moved through Lax with purpose. Despite being 78 years old, he still had the commanding presence that had made him a screen legend. He wore a simple black jacket over a gray t-shirt and dark jeans, casual clothes that somehow looked tailored on his still-fit frame. A baseball cap pulled low couldn't quite hide his famous face. People noticed him immediately. Heads turned. Whispers followed. Some reached for phones, but something in his expression, focused, determined, not to be delayed, made most think twice about approaching him for selfies. "Excuse me," he said repeatedly, his deep voice polite but firm as he navigated through the crowded terminal. When necessary, he added, "family emergency," which wasn't far from the truth. A group of tourists blocked his path, absorbed in studying their boarding passes. He sidestepped them, his eyes scanning each gate number. 32, 34, almost there. An airport employee doing a crossword puzzle at an empty gate counter looked up, did a double take, and dropped his pen. Yo. Trying to find gate 36, Sylvester finished for him. "My daughter's waiting for me." "Right that way, sir," the man pointed, suddenly alert and helpful. "Just past the coffee shop." "Thanks," Sylvester nodded, already moving on. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at the VIP lounge had changed dramatically. Tyler, the desk attendant who had turned Sistine away, was now facing his supervisor, a woman in her 50s with a tight bun and tight lips. "What do you mean? You didn't check the system properly," she demanded. "We have procedures, Tyler." "I did check." The system said her membership was expired, Tyler insisted, though his confidence was fading. And she claimed to be Sylvester Stallone's daughter. "Do you know how many people try to name-drop celebrities to get in here?" The supervisor looked at her tablet, swiping through screens. "Her membership renewed automatically last month." It's right here in the transaction log. She looked up, her expression grim. And yes, she is Stallone's daughter. A simple Google search would have confirmed that. Tyler's face drained of color. But the system. You were looking at an old account. She has two, one personal, one through her modeling agency. You needed to check both. The supervisor's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and her expression turned even more serious. The videos are trending. Airport management is calling. And she took a deep breath. Sylvester Stallone is in the building. Back at gate 36, Sistine sat with her head down, trying to become invisible. It wasn't working. More people had recognized her, and a small crowd had gathered nearby, pretending not to stare. A little boy tapped on his mother's sleeve. "Mom, why is everyone looking at that lady?" "Shay, Tommy," the mother whispered. "It's not polite to point." Then the atmosphere in the waiting area changed. A ripple of recognition spread through the crowd, starting from the walkway and moving inward like a wave. Conversations hushed. Phones appeared in hands. People stood up for a better view. Sistine felt it before she saw the cause. She looked up. There, scanning the crowded gate area, was her father. Their eyes met across the sea of travelers. Relief washed over her face. Sylvester made his way to her, people instinctively moving aside to create a path. He wasn't pushing or demanding space. They just moved, as crowds had always done for him. "Dad," Sistine said simply when he reached her. He didn't make a scene. There was no dramatic movie-style hug. Instead, he placed a hand gently on her shoulder, his eyes quickly assessing if she was okay. "You all right?" he asked quietly. She nodded, just embarrassed and angry. Understandable. He picked up her carry-on bag. "Let's get this straightened out." As they began walking, people pretended not to watch, but nearly every eye in the gate area followed them. Phone cameras recorded discreetly. A few whispers could be heard. "That's Sly Stallone. The airport staff is gonna regret this. I heard they humiliated his daughter." Sylvester ignored it all, keeping his focus on his daughter and the situation at hand. His face wasn't angry or threatening. It was calm, determined, and focused. This wasn't Rocky about to fight. This was a father standing up for his daughter in the way any father would want to, celebrity or not. As they approached the VIP lounge, the desk attendant Tyler caught sight of them coming and swallowed hard. The supervisor straightened her jacket and prepared to face a storm. What they didn't expect was how quietly storms could arrive. The VIP lounge entrance fell silent as Sylvester and Sistine approached. Tyler stood frozen behind the counter, his supervisor beside him looking both professional and concerned. Other lounge staff paused their work to watch. Even the guests inside the lounge could sense something was happening, their heads turning toward the entrance. Sylvester stopped directly in front of the counter. He didn't slam his hands down or raise his voice. He simply stood there, his presence filling the space more effectively than any shouting could have. "Good afternoon," he said, his voice low and measured. "I believe there was a problem earlier with my daughter's membership." Tyler's mouth opened and closed without sound. His supervisor stepped forward. "Mr. Stallone, I'm Lisa Winters, Customer Service Director for this terminal. We deeply regret the misunderstanding that occurred." Her voice was steady but couldn't completely hide her nervousness. "Is that what we're calling it?" "A misunderstanding?" Sylvester asked. Not aggressive, just pointed. A small crowd had gathered behind them, travelers slowing their pace to witness what was happening. Airport security hovered nearby, unsure if they should intervene or stay back. "Dad," Sistine whispered, touching his arm. "Everyone's watching." "Let them," he said quietly to her, before turning back to Lisa. "My daughter was publicly embarrassed, escorted through the airport like she'd done something wrong. All because someone couldn't be bothered to check her account properly." Tyler stepped forward, his face pale. "Sir, I'm the one woe." His supervisor cut him off with a sharp look. "Yes, Mr. Stallone, there was a significant error on our part," Lisa admitted. "Your daughter has two accounts in our system, her personal account and one through her modeling agency. Our staff member only checked one. And when my daughter tried to explain this, instead of double-checking, you called security?" Sylvester's voice remained calm, but there was steel beneath it. A man in an expensive suit pushed through the small crowd. "I'm Robert Chen, Airport Operations Manager. I came as soon as I heard about the incident. He extended his hand to Sylvester, who shook it firmly. This isn't about who I am or who my daughter is, Sylvester said, looking directly at Chen. This is about basic respect and proper verification procedures. Absolutely right, Mr. Stallone, Chen agreed. And I assure you this incident will be thoroughly addressed. Sistine spoke up, her voice quiet but clear. I just want to know why security had to walk me through the entire airport. Couldn't we have resolved this at the desk? All eyes turned to Tyler, who looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. I thought, he stammered. You thought I was lying about who I was, Sistine finished for him. And instead of taking 30 seconds to verify, you decided to make an example of me. The crowd behind them had grown larger. Phones were out, recording the confrontation, but unlike the earlier videos of Sistine being escorted away, these videos showed something different, a family standing their ground with dignity. Mr. Stallone, Miss Stallone, Chen said, would you prefer to continue this conversation somewhere more private? Actually, no, Sylvester replied. Since my daughter was humiliated publicly, I think it's appropriate that the apology and resolution happen publicly too. Chen nodded, understanding. Then let me say, on behalf of the entire airport, we sincerely apologize for how you were treated, Miss Stallone. He turned to the staff. Tyler, I believe you have something to say as well. Tyler stepped forward, his confidence completely gone. Miss Stallone, I'm sorry. I made assumptions without properly checking. I was wrong. Sistine nodded, accepting the apology with grace. And what happens now? Sylvester asked, looking at Chen. First, Miss Stallone's lounge access will obviously be honored immediately, Chen said. Second, I'd like to personally escort both of you to our premium lounge while we arrange for your departure. He hesitated, then added, and third, we'll be reviewing our training procedures for all customer-facing staff. An elderly woman watching from nearby nodded in approval. A businessman whispered to his colleague, that's how you handle things with class. Sylvester placed his hand on his daughter's shoulder. What do you think, Sistine? Is that acceptable? Sistine looked at the staff, then at the crowd of onlookers. She nodded. Yes, that works for me. What impressed everyone wasn't that Sylvester Stallone had gotten his way. It was how he'd done it, with restraint, focus, and the kind of quiet strength that had made him an icon both on and off the screen. Robert Chen led Sylvester and Sistine through a private door behind the regular VIP lounge. This area was the premium section, a quieter, more exclusive space usually reserved for the airport's highest-tier travelers. Soft jazz played in the background. The lighting was warm and soothing, nothing like the harsh fluorescence of the main terminal. Please, make yourselves comfortable, Chen said, gesturing to a seating area with plush leather chairs. Can we get you anything? Coffee? Water? Something stronger perhaps, Mr. Stallone. Water is fine for both of us, Sylvester answered, glancing at Sistine, who nodded in agreement. As a staff member hurried off to get their drinks, Chen pulled up a chair opposite them. He placed a tablet on the table between them. I want to show you something, if I may, he said, tapping the screen. This is our verification protocol. It clearly states that staff must check all linked accounts before denying access. He swiped to another screen. And here is our customer interaction guideline, which emphasizes giving customers the benefit of the doubt when there's a system discrepancy. Sylvester nodded. So the procedures were in place. They just weren't followed. Exactly, Chen agreed. Which is why this is more than just an individual staff member's mistake. It's a training failure on our part. Sistine leaned forward. What will happen to Tyler? I don't want him to lose his job over this. Both Chen and Sylvester looked at her with surprise. That's generous of you, Chen said. To be honest, we're still determining appropriate consequences. He'll definitely need retraining, and there will be a probationary period. A woman in a crisp business suit approached their table. Excuse me, I'm Diane Powell, the airport's PR director. I just got filled in on what happened. She turned to Sistine. Miss Stallone, I want to personally apologize for your experience today. Sistine nodded, accepting the apology. Diane continued, we're aware that videos of the incident are circulating online. Would you be comfortable if we issued a public statement addressing what happened? Before Sistine could answer, Sylvester raised his hand slightly. Before we talk about public statements, I'd like to know what concrete changes the airport plans to make so this doesn't happen to someone else. Chen and Diane exchanged glances. We can implement several immediate changes, Chen offered. First, mandatory refresher training for all customer service staff on verification procedures. Second, a review of our security response protocols. There was no reason to escort your daughter through the entire terminal. And third, Diane added, we can update our system to flag multiple accounts more clearly. The server returned with their waters, placing them gently on the table with linen napkins. Thank you, Sistine said to the server, who smiled gratefully before stepping away. Sylvester took a sip of his water. Those sound like good starts. He leaned back slightly in his chair. Here's what matters to me. My daughter was treated poorly not because of who she is, but because someone decided she wasn't important enough to listen to. That kind of thing happens to regular people every day, but they don't get the airport director apologizing to them. Chen shifted uncomfortably in his seat. So, Sylvester continued, if you're serious about fixing things, make changes that help everyone, not just people with famous names. Diane was typing notes on her phone. Would you be open to reviewing any new training materials we develop? Your perspective would be valuable. Sistine looked at her father, then back at Diane. Actually, I'd be interested in that. I work with public-facing brands through my modeling. I understand how these interactions can go wrong. Sylvester smiled slightly, proud of his daughter's professionalism. Perfect, Chen said, relief evident in his voice. And as for your immediate situation, we've arranged for a private cart to take you directly to your gate when it's time. In the meantime, please enjoy the lounge. Everything is complimentary, of course. Sylvester checked his watch. Sistine's flight leaves in about an hour. I was planning to drive her home, but maybe she should still take her flight. What do you think, sweetheart? Sistine thought for a moment. Honestly, after all this, I'd rather just go home with you, Dad. Chen immediately said, we can arrange for your luggage to be retrieved from the flight. It's the least we can do. As Chen stepped away to make the arrangements, Sylvester looked at his daughter. You handled yourself well today. Kept your composure when most people wouldn't have. Sistine smiled, the tension finally leaving her shoulders. I learned from the best. Around them, the premium lounge remained peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos of just half an hour ago. Outside, the videos of both incidents, the embarrassment and the resolution, continued to spread across social media. 3 months later, Sistine Stallone stepped out of her father's black SUV at LAX Airport. This time, there was no modeling job waiting for her in Paris or Milan. She was here by invitation. Ready for this? Sylvester asked, closing the car door behind him. He wore a simple navy suit with no tie, looking every bit the Hollywood legend even in casual business attire. As ready as I'll ever be, Sistine replied. She'd chosen a professional outfit, cream-colored blazer over a simple blouse and tailored pants. This wasn't a fashion event after all. This was business. They walked through the main entrance where Robert Chen waited to greet them, his hand extended. Mr. Stallone, Miss Stallone, thank you for coming today. We're honored you accepted our invitation. Nearby, a small group of reporters stood behind a velvet rope. This wasn't a major media event, but the airport had invited local press to cover what they were calling a customer service initiative launch. Chen led them through the terminal toward a small podium set up near the entrance to the VIP lounges. About 30 people were gathered, mostly airport staff in their uniforms, some executives in business attire, and a few curious travelers who had stopped to see what was happening. Today marks an important step for us, Chen said as they walked. What happened to you, Ms. Stallone, was unfortunate, but it pushed us to make changes we should have made years ago. As they approached the podium, Sistine spotted a familiar face in the crowd, Tyler, the desk attendant who had denied her entry months before. He looked different now, more confident but also more humble somehow. When their eyes met, he gave her a respectful nod, which she returned. Diane Powell, the PR director, stepped up to the microphone. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the launch of our new Respect in Transit program. As Diane explained the initiative to the gathered crowd, Sistine thought back to the aftermath of that day 3 months ago. The videos had indeed gone viral, first showing her being escorted through the terminal, then later showing her father's measured response. Some media outlets had tried to spin it as a celebrity tantrum, but most people saw it for what it was: a simple case of poor customer service that could have happened to anyone. What surprised Sistine most was her father's response to all the attention. He had declined all interview requests about the incident, even from his friends in the media. "This isn't about us getting special treatment," he had told her. "It's about fixing a broken system." And now, Diane was saying, "I'd like to invite Sistine Stallone to say a few words about her experience and her role in helping develop our new training program." There was polite applause as Sistine stepped up to the microphone. Public speaking wasn't her favorite thing, but modeling had taught her poise under pressure. "Thank you," she began. "What happened to me could have happened to anyone. The difference is, not everyone has a famous father to help make things right." This earned a small laugh from the crowd. What matters isn't that I got an apology, but that the airport took this opportunity to make real changes. From the side of the stage, Sylvester watched his daughter with quiet pride. She had grown from this experience, turning what could have been just an embarrassing moment into something meaningful. After Sistine finished her brief remarks, Chen unveiled a plaque that would hang in the staff areas. "Treat every traveler like they matter, because they do." As the small ceremony concluded, Tyler approached Sistine hesitantly. "Ms. Stallone? I wanted to thank you personally," he said. "After what happened, I was sure I'd be fired. Instead, I was given another chance. I've been helping develop the training videos, showing others what not to do." He smiled slightly. "I'm basically the before example in all our training now." Sistine smiled. "That takes courage, to use your mistake to help others learn." Later, as they walked back to the car, Sylvester put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "You know what I'm most proud of?" he asked. "What's that?" "That you didn't just accept their apology and move on. You made sure something good came from it." He squeezed her shoulder gently. "That's how real change happens, not from people with power demanding it, but from people with influence guiding it." Sistine smiled up at her father. "I had a pretty good teacher." As they drove away from LAX, a new group of travelers entered the airport, unaware of the story that had unfolded there. But thanks to that story, their experience would be just a little bit better today.